Hello, everyone. Art Sodermark, Platinum Engineering and Safety. Welcome to part one of the series, Understanding Hazwoper. In this part, we will do our best to outline the standard terms used within Hazwoper and try to simply define the topic. As always, additional information can be found at the source, OSHA Standard 29 CFR 1910.120. Let's begin by discussing why hazardous substances require our attention. Most, if not all, of these situations where we come across hazardous substances are from activities created by humans, right? Humans working within industry, however you want to describe it. There's a variety of ways that they pose these environmental risks. The fact that these harmful substances exist in places where they don't belong poses a risk to our natural resources, clean air, clean water, etc. So it's important that we recognize the fact that these exist, and most importantly, if you're tuned into a topic such as this, you're more than likely involved in the cleanup of these items. So, in addition to being harmful to the environment, these things are going to be harmful to us as we're trying to clean them up. The toxic characteristics need to be defined, which is what we're starting with here. And in future lessons, future discussions, we will talk about ways to recognize and protect ourselves from such things. Moving on, hazardous substances also create physical risks. Uncontrolled hazardous waste creates this potential for physical harm. Some of it occurs spontaneously. Some of it occurs through combination of other products or other events that might be happening nearby. We have some explosive results, sometimes reactions between incompatible chemicals or something simply incompatible in the environment create toxic gas, flammable gas, things such as that. Oxidizers pose another list of opportunities, right? It might be something just quite simply as the destruction of property. All of these things, the reactions, the oxidations, pose a risk, a physical risk to us. Surely it goes without saying we understand the risks associated with reactions and explosions and obviously flammables. So don't want to underestimate those things. Don't want the entire discussion to be about risk to the environment, because surely the physical risk and the risk to humans during the task of removal and cleanup is significant. So in addition to talking about why we're here from a risk standpoint and why it's important that we engage in these activities from a risk standpoint, the goals of a typical Hazwoper program, you start out with definitions. Here we are in part one, and that is coming up. Beyond that, you can't protect yourselves from what you can't recognize. So future parts will talk about hazard recognition and ways to how we're going to encounter substances in the environment, in the workplace, how they respond to each other, either in an expected or unexpected fashion. Then, of course, what does it do to us? Should we engage in cleaning up these activities or simply work with them? And of course, how do we protect ourselves? So we will continue on now and close out definition, and I'll mention it again now and later. Stay tuned to future discussions about the other topics listed here. Let's begin part one. Definition of hazardous substance. Okay. OSHA defines hazardous and toxic substances, chemicals that are in the workplace capable of causing harm. That's the basic definition. How prevalent are they? So there's a whole variety of things, dusts, common materials like paint, fuel, solvents, mixtures of certain things. OSHA regulates about 400 plus or minus substances currently as hazardous. If we go beyond that, the chemical sampling information that's available from OSHA lists about 1,500 substances that are cause for concern or need to be regulated or maintained in some fashion. Toxic Substance Control Act from EPA maintains an inventory of about 62,000 individual chemicals or chemical substances. If we want to use safety data sheets as a guide, 100,000 is the round number that is thrown out there for how many safety data sheets are maintained in libraries. So simple definition: hazardous substance, any substance that has a potential to harm health of people or the workplace. Further definition, let's talk about hazardous waste. So a hazardous waste is generally a byproduct, a toxic byproduct of a manufacturing process, a nuclear process. We use original product that is likely a hazardous substance, and it can no longer be used for what it was intended or created for, and now is a hazardous waste. Still maintains some of the hazardous characteristics of the original product, but cannot be used in that purpose. Maybe it's contaminated with something that came off of the process. Hazardous waste in general is considered a solid waste, and it's the characteristics may vary, right? Quantity, concentration, what its physical form, chemical form, in some cases even infectious characteristics are. But regardless of what they are, they pose a substantial or potential hazard to human health and the environment. So we have to have processes in place that either treat, store, dispose, or handle these products. So quite simply, they don't cause or contribute to an increase in mortality. Now, to further define hazardous waste, they're split up into types. Listed waste. Most hazardous waste cleanup operations don't generally deal with listed wastes. F-list and K-list wastes generally you'll find off of a manufacturing process. So you can, as a manufacturer, whatever your byproduct is, you can get your product listed. Similarly with P and U lists, sometimes if the characteristics don't change significantly, you can get your waste listed. So we generally know with listed waste what we're getting. It can be reused. We know how to treat it. We can standardize the disposal of it, and actually in some cases it can be sold to be used in other processes. Characteristic waste, pretty common. Ignitability, corrosivity, reactivity, or toxicity is how we characterize these types. Again, relatively common. Take a drum or a container of this product, sample is submitted, and it comes back and will let us know if it meets the requirements for any of these 4 categories. And then, of course, it will be disposed of appropriately. Universal waste, most of us are familiar with these: batteries, pesticides, ballasts in fluorescent light fixtures, obviously the fluorescent light bulbs as well. One thing that's not listed here that pretty common, televisions, computers, power supplies, backup power supplies, obviously things with batteries, all factor into universal waste. And then we do throughout throw out mixed waste here, anything has hazardous waste components and might have some radioactive characteristics as well. Further definition of hazardous material. Hazardous material essentially is a product or agent that can cause harm, that is transported and moved around the country, right? It's a risk to public safety, risk to the environment, and hazardous during transportation. So this is our placarded waste, or placarded products as well, not just placarded waste. So these are products that are intended for use in their on the form that they were manufactured, and because of their hazardous characteristics or their potential to cause harm, they are placarded to inform us and other professionals that are either transporting them or handling them that there are things that we have to pay attention to. And of course, the DOT manages these hazardous materials, one by placard, by label, by reportable quantity, how much can be shipped, incompatibilities regarding what can be shipped together or not shipped together. We'll speak of this again in future conversations, because placarding labels a good source of recognition if we're trying to figure out what it is we're dealing with. Also a good source when we're dealing with emergency response to transportation incidents, particularly transportation incidents of a placarded vehicle. To further the discussion on hazardous material and its definition, also known commonly as hazmat, here's a listing of different types: radioactives, flammables, explosives, corrosives, deoxidizers, asphyxiates, biohazards, toxics, pathogens, allergens. Further discussions going forward, we will talk specifically about the placards themselves and how they relate to these hazardous material types. That concludes our discussion of defining Hazwoper. Thanks for watching. Look for the balance of this 9-part series. Next in line, recognition. Recognition presentation will outline the available ways to recognize harmful substances. Thanks again for watching. This is Art Sodermark, Platinum Engineering and Safety. Hope to see you again soon.